and gentlemen, as we begin our services here today, we would kindly ask if everyone would please turn off or silence all electronic devices. Thank you.
Welcome. I open our time together today in loving memory of Dianne Ashton with words shared with me from her dear friends from her chavurah. She shared that unrestrained, booming laugh rich with warmth, that wicked sense of humor, her deep and profound understanding of all things Jewish and all things historical, the special niche she occupied in Chavurat Shirim. We continued our Chavurah, whose name translates loosely as Fellowship of Songs, is a group of a dozen or so families who gathered one Shabbat every month, pre-COVID, to daven, schmooze, talk a bit of Torah, and eat. Oh, how we ate. We've been together, they write, now for almost 4 decades and have celebrated Shabbat, holidays, and life cycle events with joy and with sorrow. Dianne was learned, and she loved to share her knowledge. Never in a condescending way, but rather with the enthusiasm of a natural-born teacher. We were a rambunctious bunch, and when we got together, we would argue even the most arcane and esoteric points. Dianne, with her bottomless trove of knowledge, often provided the deciding judgment, but always gently and always with much grace. Our numbers have dwindled over the years as we've said goodbye to Bobby, Gail, Gordon, David, Stuart, Gary, and now Dianne. Each a profound loss, each taking with them a vital piece of our identity and our collective soul. Richard, Roz, and Adam, we hope you know what an enormous role Dianne played in all our lives. Whether it was frying up 60 latkes for our Chavurah Hanukkah party, chatting about everything from the perils of academic life to choosing the perfect pair of glasses, or sharing a Seder dinner, we'll cherish our memories, while always acknowledging the Dianne-sized hole in all of our lives. End quote. Dianne's passing is felt deeply not only by her Chavurah community, but also her larger Congregation Beth Tikva family. When I began my tenure as rabbi at CBT, I reached out to congregants to make it a point to get to know each and every person. Some responded, some didn't. Some set up phone calls. Dianne and Richard insisted I come for dinner. They asked me what I'd like to eat, and opened up their home to me, and sat with me as they learned about me, and I learned about who they are and their connection to our CBT family. I learned with awe and a slight bit of intimidation of Dianne's thought leadership in the Jewish world, humbled to begin calling myself the rabbi of such a distinguished scholar. And I'm not alone among the Jewish leaders who celebrate Dianne's accomplishments. The famed professor of American Jewish history, and as I learned yesterday, Dianne's friend, Jonathan Sarna, wrote about her. H. Judaic is deeply saddened by the sudden and untimely passing of Dr. Dianne Ashton, Professor Emerita, Director of American Studies and past Chair of the Department of Philosophy and Religion at Rowan College, where she's taught since 1987. A PhD from Temple University, Professor Ashton devoted her scholarship to American Jewish history, making important contributions to Jewish women's history in the United States. She served a term as editor of the journal American Jewish History and authored Rebecca Gratz's Women and Judaism in Antebellum America and Hanukkah in America, a history. She also co-edited with Ellen Umansky, the famous reader, 4 Centuries of Jewish Women's Spirituality. Professor Ashton regularly appeared at scholarly conferences and maintained an active scholarly presence. She will be deeply missed. He concludes on behalf of himself and H. Judaic, writing, "We extend deepest condolences to her husband, Richard Drucker, and to her family, colleagues, students, and friends." All of us gathered here today share in the grief over Diane's passing. But Richard, we hold you especially as you navigate this loss. You shared with me a touching story about Diane's arrival in Philadelphia. You said how in her early life she traveled and worked on a kibbutz in Israel. She ran a women's center in Amherst, coming to Philly when she enrolled in a doctoral program at Temple and got involved with Franklin Littell, a religious scholar who did Holocaust scholarship, beginning an organization called the Anne Frank Institute, which Dianne was the program manager for. You said that you lived near one another in the apartment house in Philly, and that she came over to your place and said, "I like your books." And the rest is history. It's a good line, Dianne. And the result? 34 years of marriage and a bottomless trove of love. Dianne survived by a small and loving family, many of whom were by her side in her final moments. Her husband, Richard Drucker, her daughter, Rosalind Stoney, Rosalind's husband, John. She's the grandmother of Ricky, Robbie, and Tyler, sister of Adam and his wife, Cindy, sister-in-law of Walter and his wife, Janet, and the aunt of Evan, Leah, and Lexi, Sophie, and Evan. I hope I got all the names correct. May your love and care for one another, God willing, carry you through this difficult transition. Our Jewish tradition teaches that while the physical body is temporary, the soul is eternal. And we come together today to pray for full and complete rest for Diane's body. And as she will be laid to rest shortly at the Ad Jesuit Cemetery in Northeast Philly, we note that her soul is bound to the bond of life. That's each of you. And we offer blessings for the continued elevation of her neshama, of her soul. I'm Rabbi Nathan Weiner, the rabbi at Congregation Beth Tikva in Marlton, where Dianne and Richard are longtime members. I'm joined by my friend and colleague, the Rabbi Emeritus of Congregation Beth Tikva, Rabbi Gary Gans, who you'll hear from in just a moment. On behalf of the entire congregation, it's an honor for both of us to be present here with you today, to mourn with you, and to celebrate Diane's memory with you as well. Rabbi Gans.
I'm sad but honored to be here with you today. If I had a word to describe Dianne, the word would be resilience. It couldn't have been easy to obtain the doctoral degree. It couldn't have been easy with the physical challenges that she met. Couldn't have been easy. But she was always upbeat. She was always secure and confident and filled with plans of what was going to be next academically. I remember a while ago, she called and interviewed me for her Hanukkah in America book to see what progressive ideas I may have for her. I don't know if she actually used them or absorbed them somehow, but I felt a little bit of assistance in this great work that she put together. And then I was thrilled about a year later when surprisingly I heard her voice on NPR as she was being interviewed around Hanukkah time for this new volume of hers. I was pretty proud of her, and a sense that she was filled with purpose as well as love, devotion, and commitment to Richard. We mourn not just her loss, and we're sad about that, but we also mourn the potential of what could yet have been with that inner drive and energy that she presented so well. This optimism that was contagious among others. That's also part of what I will continue to miss about Dianne. I offer on her behalf a traditional excerpt from Psalm 23. Mizmor David, Adonai ro'i lo etzar, b'nodeshe yabitzeni, al mei b'nuchot inachaleni. נפשי ישובב, ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צלמוות, לא אירא רע, כי אתה עמדי. שפתך ומשענתך המה, הנחמוני. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. God has me lie down in green pastures, and leads me beside the still waters. God guides me on paths of righteousness and revives my soul for the sake of God's glory. Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod do comfort me. You set a table in sight of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall abide in the house of the Lord forever. We offer a reading now from the rabbi and scholar Ben Sirach that I've offered to many members of our community, of our congregation, indeed even to my own family. It reflects a sense of completion, release and relief, an acknowledgement of what was, and a sense of how difficult but important it is yet to let go. I read in translation his words. We are all destined to die. We share for whoever lived, with all whoever will be. Cry for the dead. Hide not your grief. Do not restrain your mourning, but remember that continuing sorrow is worse than death. When the dead are at rest, let their memory be a source of peace, and be consoled when the soul departs. Death is better than a life of pain, and eternal rest is better than lingering illness. As a drop of water in the sea, as a grain of sand on the shore, are our few days in eternity. The good things in life last for a short time, but a good name, a good reputation, endures forever. I'm honored now to call on several speakers. As you come up, in order to maintain some social and medical distancing, Rabbi Nathan and I will each step out of this door. But I'm first honored to call on Richard.
First, I'd like to thank our friends and our families for attending. I'm greatly moved by your presence. Not long after Dianne received her doctorate from Temple, she became my next door neighbor in an apartment in Overbrook Park. And I was the superintendent of the building. My father arranged for me to do some chores so that I get a little bit of a break on the rent. And Dianne and I passed each other in the hall several times and smiled. Finally, one day I had my door open because that was the opportunity for residents to come and ask me to do things for them. And Dianne walked in with her bob of curly blonde hair and her vivacious smile and said, "I like your bookcase." And that was the beginning of a wonderful partnership for 34 joyous years. Our first date was a visit to the Philadelphia Art Museum, and Dianne was so impressed that I knew so much about Picasso, her favorite painter. And that was the beginning of many visits to art museums and galleries, to the Philadelphia Orchestra for many years, and the beginning of our travels together. Most importantly, we went to Buffalo to meet my future in-laws and my dear brother-in-law, Adam, and my in-laws, Irving and Mimi, who took to me right away as I did to them. And in spite of the established jokes about Buffalo and its snow and its coldness, we enjoyed staying with them and visiting with all of the Ashton family. And I became part of their family and felt loved and appreciated. I'd also like to remember my brother Walter, to mention my brother Walter, and remember my brother Jules, and my sister-in-law Louise. Louise is here today and is joined by her children, and I'm deeply appreciative of their support for me throughout my life and their love and kindness. Finally, my parents, Jerome and Ellen, who were wonderful, loving parents, and would have loved spending more of their lives with Dianne and Dianne's daughter, Rosalind, and her family. Dianne was a terrific partner in my life. We were married in October 1988 at Mainline Reformed Synagogue, and moved in together in Overbrook Park. But from the very beginning, we wanted to have a home together. Dianne was not particularly impressed with my choices of houses for us to live in. Finally, we found an incredible house in Cherry Hill that had wood floors and a fireplace and everything that Dianne wanted: large trees, a garden for me, and a very comfortable place for us to live. And I'd like to recognize our neighbors, Alan and Deanie Edmondson, who have been so supportive of us and have been so friendly and so willing to help us and to interact with us. I see many, many friends of Dianne, and Tikva. And I'd like to welcome them today and to thank them for coming. I've received many, many emails from friends and family and phone calls wishing me well and offering condolences, and I'm grateful to them and hope that, as with the people who are here today, that I can continue relationships with them. Dianne's warmth, vibrance, humor, and kindness made our relationship exciting and fulfilling. When she was hired at Rowan University, she quickly progressed through the steps of professorship and became a full professor within a very short time. The group of professors who started when Dianne did in 1987 were called the Stars, because they were all had excellent reputations in their fields, and they were all roughly the same age and started their academic careers at the same time. And of course, Dianne was very friendly with a number of professors at the university who continue to be friendly and supportive. Today, I'd like to thank the Philosophy Religion Department for sending me a large basket of fruit and crackers and tea to make life easier and to know that they appreciated Dianne. Dianne devoted herself to teaching and scholarly research and earned the respect of colleagues in the national and international Jewish community. As Rabbi Gantz and Rabbi Nathan commented, Dianne had published a number of books that were very relevant to American Jewish history and to women's Jewish history in particular. And her books were well received, well reviewed, and of course I enjoyed reading them as well, and praising Dianne for her incredible commitment and goal orientation to her scholarship and her work. Our international visits and trips were incredible. Dianne's favorite town was Rome, and we were lucky enough to go on a cruise with John and Rosalind a couple of years ago before COVID, and just had an incredible time. It was Dianne and my first chance to be together with Roz and John, and we had a wonderful trip, which is the source of incredible stories. I'd like to share one other story that Dianne and I went with the American Jewish Historical Society to London to visit some of the Jewish sites there and to have lectures. We attended a lecture by Martin Green, a Churchill scholar, in Churchill's war room, and Dianne was extremely impressed that we were able to experience that kind of event. We went to the Oxford Center for Jewish Studies. We were both surprised to see that my cousin Felix, my father's nephew, had his picture there because Felix was kind enough to donate $1 million to the Oxford Center for Jewish Studies. I don't see Felix as much as I should, but we did visit him at his home, a castle in the south of England, and met his wonderful children. And Felix began the Posen Foundation, which is a compilation of Jewish texts from the time of Spinoza through to the modern period. Dianne enjoyed speaking engagements in synagogues, at the Library of Congress, and at various venues around the country, including the Jewish Museum here in Philadelphia, and the Center for Jewish Studies in Greenwich Village in New York. Our lives together were built on a growing love and respect and the possibilities of the rewards of life together. We shared many family holidays with friends and family and enjoyed them tremendously. Dianne loved Jewish ritual, and she loved being with friends and family to experience these things. Two things happened to Dianne later in life that were memorable and gave her sense a life of completeness. She joined a women's group that had monthly meetings and topics and themes, and Dianne made a number of friends in that group and was very, very happy to be in a group where she could share some of the ideas and thoughts that she had developed over a lifetime of scholarship and relationships. And I'm most grateful for Dianne's blessing in life, her relationship with her daughter, Rosalind, and her family, John, and Ricky, and Robbie, and Tyler. She loved her grandchildren and was always excited to speak with them on the telephone and to talk with them when we visited Ross and John. She was loved by everyone. Thank you.
I now welcome Russell.
On March 25th, 2016, after multiple attempts of hard-counting anxiety-filled phone call attempts, my mother, Dianne Ashton, finally picked up the phone and said hello. I said, "My name's Rosalind Sony, and I am looking for Dianne Ashton. I was given your number by a search angel." Dianne then quickly responded, "What is a search angel?" I responded by explaining how search angels help connect adopted children to their biological parents. She immediately responded with a very short, "Where were you born?" Trying to keep my composure, as I am now, I responded, "The University Hospital in Staten Island on November 20th, 1966. And instantly she responded with a simple yet ensuring, "Yup." I felt just like the Dr. Seuss classic, "Are you my mother?" She had almost a joyful confidence. She said, "Yes." And in that yes, I felt and heard hope. I assured her that I didn't want to intrude on her life and that I was just joyful to know who she was. I could just hang up and never bother her again without any trepidation. She responded, "Absolutely not. I have been waiting for your call your entire life." As the emotions remained, she was eager to know what I looked like. And in true Dianne style, she wanted a picture but was very cautious to share her cell phone number. However, once she learned that I was married and had children, she quickly was willing to share this highly secretive information. My always supporting and quick-thinking husband took a picture and we sent it to her, not having a clue what her response would be. She responded bluntly, "I'm so sorry you have my hair." From that point on, the avalanche of conversations, unconditional love, compassion, travels, dinners, holidays, and so much more would continue all the way up until January 19, 2022. From March 25th, 2016, until January 19th of this year, not a day, hour, or minute was wasted in learning about one another and trying to spend the most time we could at any point together. You see, this was a passion project with a deep desire from both ends. We turned into the most beautiful, fulfilling relationship for both of us. She used to tell me how much I changed her life and completed her, and words truly can't ever describe what she did for me. She was the author, clearly I am not. In fact, that might be the only thing we did not have in common. Oh yes, there might have been cold weather also. I absolutely was so proud of her success in her career and all of her accomplishments. She was so highly regarded, and to this day, it does continue to blow me away. How do you go from 66 years of no children in a small family to a daughter, son-in-law, and 3 grandchildren with a blink of an eye, without judgment, and with the most open heart? She sure did. My family really does have all the colors of the spectrum. And Mom somehow instantly loved all of them so deeply. As much as she loved black and white, she never quivered on taking on this redhead's family. Upon the relationship building, it gave me so much joy that her favorite word quickly became Mom. Mom is a small 3-letter word and a job which no training is given. Yet Mom smoothly transitioned and filled every void a daughter, son-in-law, and grandchildren could have. She was there every day, not just for me, but my entire family. She embraced my family as if we were never separated, and that would be with me forever. I was so blessed to be brought into this world by this amazing, wonderful mom. What are the chances an adopted child gets to be with their birth mother during her last moments on this earth, being able to be by her side while holding her hand, feeling our natural bond and tender love we share, I believe, gave us both peace in her final breaths. We will be forever loved and missed, Mom. Rest in peace.
Thank you, Rosa. And finally, call on Adam.
I'm Dianne Ashton, Dianne's brother. Our grandma calls her Dina. For my whole life, I called her Deanie. She was 11 years older than me, yet I never envisioned her funeral, let alone speaking at it. She wasn't only my big sister, she was my confidant, my sounding board, my counsel. We were very honest with each other and straightforward. So when I wanted to cheat on my wife after 1 year of marriage, she told me that I mustn't do it and needed to end things. So I divorced my wife. My second wife and kids have much to thank my sister for. She was my moral compass. Growing up in Buffalo, my sister never lived near me from the time I was 8 years old. The distance did not prevent her from always looking out for me. When she feared my parents were going to mess me up, she offered to have me come live with her in Massachusetts with her and her then husband, so I could be safe and nurtured. This ex-husband ultimately murdered someone and suicided in prison, but at the time she thought this arrangement was better than being raised by my parents. She was a child of the 60s, wanting to change the world for the better. She went to Woodstock, only to leave because it was too muddy. But her heart was in the right place. Like the time she wanted to march in protest against hunger and poverty in Bangladesh, but told my mom she needed new shoes first. When I think of Deanie, I remember going on late night walks on Miami Beach, or dancing at the Marco Polo Hotel, to whatever disco music was playing. I didn't even realize she struggled to get around until my late 20s. That was the way she wanted it to be, and that was the way she wanted to be judged, based on accomplishments and good deeds, and not to be viewed through the lens of physical difficulty. With Richard, she found a partner to share her love of books, friends, and the pursuit of life experiences. They relied on each other and forged a solid partnership that lasted the rest of her life. But it wasn't until she was found by her daughter, Rosalind, that I think she found real meaning to her life. She loved Roz, John, Ricky, Robin, Tyler. And my sister developed a light that was never extinguished. In my view, Roz was the love of her life. And that's saying something, because I thought I was the love of her life.
Sorry.
And Richard thought he was the love of her life. We all thought we were the love of her life. She loved us all. We knew it, we felt it, and we were better for it. She spoke fondly of her friends over the years and the plans of enjoying a long retirement, following her decision to retire last spring. COVID had other plans. Fate had other plans. But I don't feel alone. I can still hear her voice. Her being pissed at ignorance and unfairness in the world events. Her aggravation with bureaucracy and red tape. Her frustration over a bad meal. But what I will remember is a lifelong devoted friend who was never shy about telling the people she loved that she loved them. Who built people up to be better, to be their better selves. With some of her favorite words, sweetie, honey, or fuck, I love you so much. I remember a time growing up when she was visiting in Buffalo when I was little, and talking with my mom about how she went away to college and developed a bawdy mouth, a foul mouth in front of her young brother, just saying things, and how she said, I can't help it. That fuck is my favorite word when shit is your favorite word to my mother. It was one of the only times she could shut my mother up. I remember a time, I'm a psychiatrist, I remember a time at a restaurant, and someone came up to us and said, Dr. Ashton? We both said yes. And we both looked at each other like, what do you say Dr. Ashton for? I'm Dr. Ashton. And I believe she knew how much she was loved. I'm not sure any of us can hope for anything more than knowing love and the feeling of being loved when we reach the end of our days. So when we think of Dinala, Deanie, Diane, Mom, Aunt, friend, sweetie, let's remember the gift of love she gave us and left us with.
So with these thoughts in mind, that we move to El Malei Rachamim, the central prayer of a Jewish memorial service. It asks that Diane's soul be granted true rest on the wings of God's divine presence. I'll read it first in English, followed by chanting it in the Hebrew. Please rise. God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the Shekhinah, the divine presence, the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine as the resplendence of the firmament to the soul of Dianne Ashton, who has gone to her eternal home. For charity has been donated in remembrance of her soul. May her place of rest be in the Garden of Eden. Therefore, may the all-merciful one shelter her with the cover of God's wings forever and bind her soul in the bond of life. Adonai is her heritage. May she rest in her resting place in peace, and let us say, Amen. El Malei Rachamim, Shochem Bamromim, Hamitzei Menucha Nechona, Al Kanfei Hashchina, Malot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazkirim, Et Nishmat Dina Bat Yitzchak Umiriam, Shehalcha Le'olama, Ba'avor Shnadvu Tzadaka Ba'ad Haskarat Nishmata, Gan Eden Tehe Menuchata, לכן בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים. בצרור החיים את נשמתה, אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח על משכבה בשלום, ונאמר אמן. You be seated. Our time together here at the chapel is drawing to a close. The family asks that donations in lieu of flowers be made to either the Muscular Dystrophy Society, Congregation Beth Tikva, or the Planted Tree in Israel. Also, there will be a virtual Shiva for the Mincha afternoon service at 5 p.m. on Zoom. Feel free to reach out to me or to the family for the link.
And we have the pallbearers, please. I will ask everyone to rise once more, please.
יושב בספר עליון, אצל שדי עיתונאי. ואמר להם מחסים מצורתי, אלוהי תחתו. והוא יצילך מפח יחוש מדבר כבוד. ועברתו יסף לך ותחת כנפיו תחסה, צינה בסוחרה אמיתו. לא תירא מפחד לילה, לחייתי ותיומם. מדבר באופו יהלוך מכתב ישות צהריים. מפה מצילך אלך ורבבה ממינך אליך לא ייגש. רק בעינך תביט בשלומת ושקים תראה. יתר מהמחסי על יון סמתם ונחה, לא תמנעו לך רעה, ונגע לא יקרא כחולה.
Folks, if everyone could just take a seat just for a moment, please.